they're, from a biblical standpoint, they ought to be used to those type of things. And I think there's a reference that says that the simple things of God confound the wise. Obviously, the wisdom of man doesn't tell you to go up into a tree. The wisdom of man says, cut that tree down because we need to build some buildings. And
right.
And you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's like what man thinks is right is completely contrary to the real truth. And I would define the truth as what God knows is right.
Joseph, we have this question from the live chat. They want to know, is it true that plants can read our mind or sense fear? You think?
I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that one. I'm not really sure.
Well, I mean, there are people that say that talking to plants causes them to prosper more. I mean, I think that's even scientifically documented, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if this is along what this person was talking about, but I do know, that it is scientific, reasoning that, like, if you can, like, if a plant's growing and you play some really aggressive music around it, it's not going to grow as well. So I guess that would say that a plant can sense, it senses certain things, and it can only grow in an environment that it enjoys. I don't know if that's exactly where the, what that person was getting at. But, you know what I can tell you, like, it's really interesting, though. I really can tell you that, like, climbing up into the trees, and maybe this is definitely less of a thing that's revolving around the trees, but more of a spiritual thing, like a thing that revolves around God. But I just know that when I first started climbing trees and I was afraid, it was a lot harder than when I actually let go of my fear. I mean, when I wasn't afraid of falling, when I really, there was a very real sense of trusting the tree, of having this kinship with the tree, and knowing, because there are a lot of times, I mean, after living in that tree for 2 years, like you climb on a climbing rope to get up into the tree, to get the first 150 feet up. But then everything from there, you're climbing up through branches. And, when I get up to my home, I wouldn't even wear safety gear. I would take off my safety gear and I would just climb up through the tree. And after, it wasn't more than 3 months when I felt completely at ease with climbing into the tree. And I was never afraid at all of falling, because the way I look at it is like, this tree is my friend. This tree isn't really going to let me fall. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's also the fact that I know that God was with me and that God was protecting me too. But, the way I look at it is that the Spirit of God is in the trees. That's what I believe. Because think about it, like, the trees, to me, it makes sense that the forest, all the beauty in this world, would, to me, like, in a spiritual sense, I would view that as being the artwork of God. And I don't know, like, I think if a painter is putting everything he has into a painting, I think in a very real sense you can say that a part of that painter's spirit is in that painting. You know what I mean? Like, so much is going into it.
All right. For those of you just tuning in, we are talking to Joseph Land, who spent 2 years up in a redwood tree. Joseph, could we go and extrapolate from that to say, and other guests and so many other genres have come on the program and said, it seems that this spark of life, and I think you said sort of maybe a soul, you try to make a distinction between the soul and spirit, but there is in everything some spark of life or something that makes it alive. And is it perhaps that the tree has more evidence of that living spark than, say, other plants and such?
Yeah, that's another tough one. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, that's a tough one, because I don't know if, like, a rock has as much of that spirit as a tree. I don't know. Or, maybe even, like, with the redwoods, maybe it has something to do with that they're so old, you know, and that life force has been around for so long that it's, like, stronger in that tree.
All right, Joseph.
What I do know, like, there's another verse, though, in the book of Ezekiel that blew me away. This is just talking about the animals, but it says, that the Spirit of God comes down, or maybe it's in Psalms. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about that the Spirit of God comes down into them, and it's speaking about the animals, and it says that they are created. And then it says, like, he takes his breath away from them and they die and return back to the earth. I mean, when I read that, the way I interpreted that is like, yeah, like when God creates a living thing, like a part of his spirit, like actually comes down into that living thing.
Okay. Well, what about this here? Our commercial director asked this question: do you use paper products? And of course, those come from trees. So, I mean, do you mourn when a paper mill uses trees to make paper products that you probably have used?
Yeah, I mean, I try to use recycled paper as much as I can. I mean, unfortunately, yeah, like I mean, I do use paper. I just try to recycle it. I try to recycle. I do recycle as much as I can. I never just throw paper out. And I mean, I do try to use as much paper as I can.
Yeah.
And so,
Joseph,
like, I'm not completely apart from this whole system that's still destroying this environment.
Now there you go. Because what you just said is what Jamie and I have been talking about. And by the way, she's here. Jamie, did you say hello, Joseph?
No, I haven't. But hello, Joseph. Appreciate I appreciate you being on the show tonight. And I'm just kind of wondering, because the redwoods are so old. They've got to have a story. I mean, I would personally believe that something that old and so magnificent would have a story, and maybe it's the story that someone doesn't really want to get out. Maybe there's something in there so valuable. I mean, I know that might sound crazy to some, but I mean, seriously, why are people so intent on cutting those trees down and trying to harm the people who's trying to say, wait a minute, you've destroyed just about everything on this earth, can we just not have something that's been here for eons? I don't know.
And why is it that, I mean, in our country we go to so much length to protect buildings, like we say, oh, this building is a part of our national heritage, but a tree that's been here since Christ walked the earth, like, we can just cut it down. And one thing I really want people to know, because I never knew this before I went up to California, what people need to know is that, like, I'm not here saying that I was sitting in a tree just because they're cutting trees down, because they're cutting redwoods down. No, we're sitting in a tree because they've cut all the redwoods down. I mean, people need to know that there are less than 2% of these redwoods left. I mean, they're basically gone. Right. I mean, people think, oh, the redwoods, they're out in California, they're really great, but what they don't know is that, like the redwoods that people are thinking about, like, those are so rare, they hardly exist anymore. And the ones that do exist, they're not in the national forest. They're in private timber hands.
Right.
People, like the national forest, the Redwood National Forest, it's disgusting. If you went up there are 2 logging mills in Redwood National Forest. There's, like, you drive through Redwood Forest and it's nothing but pecker poles. And what a pecker pole is that's a logging sling for a tree that's less than a foot in diameter. Like these, mankind has just destroyed everything.
Joseph,
really sad.
Joseph, you just started earlier, just a few minutes ago, started touching on the real heart of the matter. You said, you were starting to say that you hadn't yet been able to disconnect from the man system, and that is why the trees have been cut down to begin with, because nobody that's not in a corporate logging company wants those trees cut down, and those things are from a corporation standpoint, and it's from what we euphemistically call the man system. And the man system says we have to cut down the trees to build the buildings so that we can, clear the trees and just have roads and such. The whole concept of life has been